A chronological Bible in 365 episodes. This is episode 112, continuing in 2 Samuel 5, and also including sections of 1 Chronicles. Then all the tribes of Israel came to David at Hebron and spoke, saying, "Indeed, we are your bone and your flesh."
Also, in time past, when Saul was king over us, you were the one who led Israel out and brought them in. And the Lord said to you, "You shall shepherd my people Israel, and be ruler over Israel."
Therefore all the elders of Israel came to the king at Hebron, and King David made a covenant with them at Hebron before the Lord. And they anointed David king over Israel.
David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned for 40 years.
In Hebron he reigned over Judah 7 years and 6 months. And in Jerusalem he reigned 33 years over all Israel and Judah.
And the king and his men went to Jerusalem against the Jebusites, the inhabitants of the land, who spoke to David, saying, "You shall not come in here, but the blind and the lame will repel you," thinking David cannot come in here.
Nevertheless, David took the stronghold of Zion, that is, the city of David.
Now David said on that day, "Whoever climbs up by the way of the water shaft and defeats the Jebusites, the lame and the blind, who are hated by David's soul, he shall be chief and captain." Therefore they said, "The blind and the lame shall not come into the house."
Then David dwelt in the stronghold and called it the city of David. And David built all around from the Millo and inward.
So David went on and became great, and the Lord God of hosts was with him.
Then Hiram, king of Tyre, sent messengers to David, and cedar trees, and carpenters, and masons, and they built David a house.
So David knew that the Lord had established him as king over Israel, and that he had exalted his kingdom for the sake of his people Israel.
And David took more concubines and wives from Jerusalem, after he had come from Hebron. Also, more sons and daughters were born to David.
Now when the Philistines heard that they had anointed David king over Israel, all the Philistines went up to search for David. And David heard of it and went down to the stronghold.
The Philistines also went and deployed themselves in the valley of Rephaim.
So David inquired of the Lord, saying, "Shall I go up against the Philistines? Will you deliver them into my hand?" And the Lord said to David, "Go up, for I will doubtless deliver the Philistines into your hand."
So David went to Baal Perazim, and David defeated them there. And he said, "The Lord has broken through my enemies before me, like a breakthrough of water." Therefore he called the name of that place Baal Perazim.
And they left their images there, and David and his men carried them away.
Then the Philistines went up once again and deployed themselves in the valley of Rephaim.
Therefore David inquired of the Lord and said, "You shall not go up, circle around behind them, and come upon them in front of the mulberry trees."
And it shall be, when you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the mulberry trees, then you shall advance quickly, for then the Lord will go out before you to strike the camp of the Philistines.
And David did so as the Lord commanded him, and he drove back the Philistines from Geba as far as Gezer.
Again, David gathered all the choice men of Israel, 30,000.
And David arose and went with all the people who were with him from Baal Judah to bring it up from there the ark of God, whose name is called by name, the Lord of hosts, who dwells between the cherubim.
So they set the ark of God on a new cart and brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was on the hill, and Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab, drove the new cart.
And they brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was on the hill, accompanying the ark of God, and Ahio went before the ark.
Then David and all the house of Israel played music before the Lord, on all kinds of instruments of fir wood, on harps, on stringed instruments, on tambourines, on sistrums, and on cymbals.
And when they came to Nachon's threshing floor, Uzzah put out his hand to the ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen stumbled.
Then the anger of the Lord was aroused against Uzzah, and God struck him there for his error, and he died there by the ark of God.
And David became angry because of the Lord's outbreak against Uzzah, and he called the name of the place Perez Uzzah to this day.
David was afraid of the Lord that day, and he said, "How can the ark of the Lord come to me?"
So David would not move the ark of the Lord with him into the city of David, but David took it aside into the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite.
The ark of the Lord remained in the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite 3 months, and the Lord blessed Obed-Edom and all his household.
These 6 were born to him in Hebron. There he reigned 7 years and 6 months, and in Jerusalem he reigned 33 years.
Then all Israel came together to David at Hebron, saying, "Indeed, we are your bone and your flesh."
Also in time past, even when Saul was king, you were the one who led Israel out and brought them in. And the Lord your God said to you, "You shall shepherd my people Israel, and be ruler over my people Israel."
Therefore all the elders of Israel came to the king at Hebron, and David made a covenant with them at Hebron before the Lord. Then they anointed David king over Israel according to the word of the Lord by Samuel.
And David and all of Israel went to Jerusalem, which is Jebus, where the Jebusites were, and the inhabitants of the land.
Then the inhabitants of Jebus said to David, "You shall not come in here." Nevertheless, David took the stronghold of Zion, that is, the city of David.
Now David said, "Whoever attacks the Jebusites first shall be the chief and captain." And Joab the son of Zeruiah went up first and became chief.
Then David dwelt in the stronghold, therefore they called it the city of David.
And he built the city around it, from the Milo to the surrounding area. Joab repaired the rest of the city.
Then David went on and became great, and the Lord of hosts was with him.
Now these were the numbers of the divisions that were equipped for war, and came to David at Hebron to turn over the kingdom of Saul to him, according to the word of the Lord.
Of the sons of Judah, bearing shield and spear, 6,800 armed for war.
Of sons of Simeon, mighty men of valor, fit for war, 7,100.
Of the sons of Levi, 4,600.
Jehoiada, the leader of the Aaronites, and with him 3,700.
Zadok, a young man, a valiant warrior, and from his father's house 22 captains.
Of the sons of Benjamin, relatives of Saul, 3,000. Until then, the greatest part of them had remained loyal to the house of Saul.
Of the sons of Ephraim, 20,800, mighty men of valor, famous men throughout their father's house.
Of the half-tribe of Manasseh, 18,000 who were designated by name to come and make David king.
Of the sons of Issachar, who had understanding of the times, to know what Israel ought to do, their chiefs were 200, and all their brethren were at their command.
Of Zebulun there was 50,000 who went out to battle, expert in war with all weapons of war, stout-hearted men who could keep ranks.
Of Naphtali 1,000 captains, and with them 37,000 with shield and spear.
Of Danites who could keep battle formation, 28,600.
Of Asher, those who could go out to war, able to keep battle formation, 40,000.
Of the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half-tribe of Manasseh, from the other side of the Jordan, 120,000 armed for battle and every kind of weapon of war.
All these men of war, who could keep ranks, came to Hebron with a loyal heart, to make David king over all Israel, and all the rest of Israel were of one mind to make David king.
And they were there with David 3 days, eating and drinking, for their brethren had prepared for them.
Moreover, those who were near to them, from as far away as Issachar and Zebulun and Naphtali, were bringing food on donkeys and camels, on mules and oxen, provisions of flour and cakes of figs and cakes of raisins, wine and oil and oxen and sheep abundantly. For there was joy in Israel.
Then David consulted with the captains of thousands and hundreds, and with every leader.
And David said to all the assembly of Israel, "If it seems good to you, and if it is of the Lord our God, let us send out to our brethren everywhere who are left in all the land of Israel, and with them to the priests and Levites who are in their cities and their common lands, that they may gather together to us.
And let us bring the ark of our God back to us, for we have not inquired at it since the days of Saul."
Then all the assembly said that they would do so, for the thing was right in the eyes of all the people.
So David gathered all of Israel together from Shihor in Egypt to as far as the entrance of Hamath, to bring the ark of God from Kirjath Jearim.
And David and all Israel went up to Baalath, to Kirjath Jearim, which belonged to Judah, to bring up from there the ark of God the Lord, who dwells between the cherubim, where his name is proclaimed.
So they carried the ark of God on a new cart from the house of Abinadab, and Uzzah and Ahio drove the cart.
Then David and all Israel played music before God with all their might, with singing, on harps, on stringed instruments, on tambourines, on cymbals, and with trumpets.
And when they came to Shidon's threshing floor, Uzzah put his hand to hold the ark, for the ox stumbled.
Then the anger of the Lord was aroused against Uzzah, and he struck him because he put his hand to the ark, and he died there before God.
And David became angry because of the Lord's outbreak against Uzzah. Therefore the place is called Perez Uzzah to this day.
David was afraid of God that day, saying, "How can I bring the ark of God to me?"
So David would not move the ark with him into the city of David, but he took it aside into the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite.
The ark of God remained with the family of Obed-Edom in his house 3 months, and the Lord blessed the house of Obed-Edom and all that he had.
Now Hiram, king of Tyre, sent messages to David in cedar trees with masons and carpenters to build him a house.
So David knew that the Lord had established him as king over Israel, for his kingdom was highly exalted for the sake of his people Israel.
Now when the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king of all of Israel, all the Philistines went up to search for David, and David heard of it and went out against them.
Then the Philistines went and made a raid on the valley of Rephaim.
And David inquired of God, saying, "Shall I go up against the Philistines? Will you deliver them into my hand?" And the Lord said to them, "Go up, for I will deliver them into your hand."
So they went up to Baal Perazim, and David defeated them there. Then David said, "God has broken through my enemies by my hand like a breakthrough of water." Therefore they called the name of that place Baal Perazim.
And when they left their gods there, David gave a commandment, and they were burned with fire.
Then the Philistines once again made a raid on the valley.
Therefore David inquired again of God, and God said to him, "You shall not go up after them. Circle around them and come upon them in front of the mulberry trees."
And it shall be, when you hear a sound of marching in the tops of the mulberry trees, then you shall go out to battle. For God has gone out before you to strike the camp of the Philistines.
So David did as God commanded him, and they drove back the army of the Philistines from Gibeon as far as Gezer.
Then the fame of David went out into all lands, and the Lord brought the fear of him upon all nations.